Hello, everybody. I'm ZenithWarriorPrincess, the cutest of ghost buns, and welcome back to the Disney debate, where Kat Macberrie, Doug Macberrie, and myself talk about Disney movies, Disney products, and everything in between. And before we get started, how is it going, Kat?
I put a spell on you, and now you're mine. You can't stop the things I do. I ain't lying. And now you all must listen to this podcast. Give us all the likes and all the comments and all the subscriptions. You have to, because I'm singing it. Sorry, this is a fun movie to sing along to, so I couldn't help it. So yeah, you're gonna hear it twice now. Enjoy.
And Mr. Dog.
Oh, sorry. I was sleeping in my grave since when was 1992?
I think that was 30 something years ago.
Oh, oh no,
Shit, that was 30
hi.
years ago.
Whoa, does feel like that. Yeah, no, I'm okay. I think I kind of I had the second booster recently, so I think I'm like kind of having a little side effects, giving me a bit of a cold here, but otherwise okay.
You feeling a bit verklempt?
Feeling verklempt, talk amongst yourselves, give you a topic. Rhode Island is neither a road nor an island. Duran is neither Duran nor Duran. The Holy Roman
Discuss.
Empire was nearly the whole, neither holy nor Roman nor an empire. Discuss.
And on my end, all I have to say is, come little bunnies, I'll take thee away into a land of podcasting. Come little bunnies, the time's come to play here in our Disney debate. God, I love Hocus Pocus.
Great. Now we're gonna have all sorts of children flocking to us. We don't need that.
Well, we need to have more viewers on our content. This is how we do it, right? I think.
Kids don't know nothing about this.
I mean,
The
I
show
drive
is
an
not
unmarked
for
van
kids.
at work sometimes, so, you know.
No, stop that. It's silly. But one thing that I will say is our show is not for kids. While we do talk about Disney stuff, I say fuck a lot. So I'm just saying that right now. We're not for kids.
We are potty mouths for sure.
I try to be a wholesome buns, but I am a ghost, and I do talk about certain things. With that being said, today we're talking about the movie Hocus Pocus 2. But before
Abracadabra.
we start, abracadabra. It's just a bit of Hocus Pocus.
Abracadabra.
One thing I do want to.
Hocus cadabra.
Newport News.
Walla Walla,
One thing
Washington.
Oh, silence you!
Sorry.
I'm kidding. But one thing I do want to delve into before we get started is previously on the Disney debate, we had the last episode was an Emperor's New Remake, and we weren't sure because of Kat and Doug's move what was gonna be next. And you know what? We decided, okay, let them settle in. We're going to talk about Hocus Pocus 2. Now, the thing is, while Hocus Pocus 2 does fit in with the Halloween season, I honestly think this is a good part of the Emperor's New Remake. And while it's not part of the live-action remake trend of the stuff that we've been talking about, we chose this specifically because we weren't entirely sure. This is a sequel, like, 30 years in the making, and we weren't sure how this was going to happen. Like, this... I think this is the longest sequel since, like, Bambi 2 that we've covered on the show. Wouldn't you say, Kat?
Pretty close. I mean, nothing's gonna beat Bambi in terms of, like, distances between sequels, but Yeah, this is one that I never thought we'd get. I've been hearing rumors about this for years. I'd see the occasional Facebook post that would get recirculated and get people all hyped, but it turned out not to be true and stuff. So the fact that this happened at all is like honestly a fucking miracle. And the fact that they even got the same three leads, not like four leads I should say, to come back, like holy crap. I mean, kudos on them for making it happen because from what I heard, they went through a lot to get this off the ground and basically be what it is. Because originally, this was supposed to be a remake on Disney Channel. It was going to be a brand new cast, brand new storyline, you know, like the original, but just with different people. And then they were going to do like something, I think, slightly different, maybe like a straight to DVD or straight to like Disney Channel, like sequel esque type thing. But thankfully, they made the good decision to make this a proper sequel and put it on Disney Plus. And honestly, like this is the best they could have done regarding this film. So I am honestly
Mm.
very glad with how this came out ultimately.
Yeah, like this was kind of one of those projects that's been in development hell for a while. Go to hell. I've been there. It's quite lovely. But honestly, I'm treating this kind of as a remake, and we'll get into why in a little bit, because while it is very much tied to the first film, and it does have like parts that you can tell where they're just like, okay, let's connect it. It very much feels like a remake. So welcome, my friends, once again to the Emperor's New Remake. It's time for a live action remake of a live action remake. Let's discuss Hocus Pocus 2. Yay. Before we get into the second film, though, I do want to briefly say my thoughts on the first film. I didn't ask Kat and Doug to rewatch the first film, mostly because it's really not super connected. We did a watch party for the second film, and it was great. Although I was stupid. I'm a ditzy bun, and I thought for some reason that we're gonna watch like both films back to back. And I started watching the first film while they were watching the second film, and it did not sync up. It was so that was my bad. But
Could have had a
Our riffs were
V8.
our riffs were going unacknowledged.
I was like, "What are you talking about? What's going on here?" And then I like, "Hey, here's the stars of the film, Ice and Jay," and they're like, "What are you talking about?" So I do want to briefly acknowledge the first one, because one thing that I'm acquaintances with Erod, also known as the Blockbuster Buster on Twitter. So like we don't talk often, but he does comment on my tweets and stuff, and we do interact. And when they watched Hocus Pocus 2, I was a little bit interested because they aren't as fond of Hocus Pocus 2 as I am. But like they said, it's kind of like a bit of a cash grab. It's not as charming as the first. I'm like, okay, I'm not sure. And like the original was very much a decom, and like that's kind of what I put forth. And they're like, rewatch it and see where we're coming from. And I did rewatch it, and part of me is like, I do think that Hocus Pocus is still a classic, but there are parts that I do wince at because like it's a very 90s movie. It has these moments where I'm just like, there's the fish out of water stuff that's a little bit annoying, and there's the Max Dennison like 90s isms with the school. And it's like, I grew up in the 90s, I like it, but like looking at it objectively, it's not the best thing. But I think where Erod is coming from, in that there's so much heart put into the first film about these three characters, and the actors are living it up. They're having the best time of their unlives, and I think why a lot of us really gravitate towards the film is the performances from the three witches, the songs, the atmosphere, the costuming. Like they do a really good job pulling you into this universe. And while I do have legitimate problems with it, I can kind of say that this film really deserves its status as a cult classic. Doug, would you agree with that?
I think yeah, really need to have the nostalgia goggles on, and particularly you have to have grown up with it. I saw it for the first time like when I don't know, maybe I was in my 20s, and it just didn't resonate with me the same way. I'm like, I get, why a lot of people might like it and how, the the stars, Bette Midler, Kathy Najimy, and Sarah Michelle Gellar, they're all having the time
Sarah
of their
Jessica
life.
Parker.
Sarah Jessica Parker, excuse me, how they're all having the time of their life, and it's like, yeah, I can't hate on that. And of course, it's got Jason Marsden in it. He's always great. I remember he used to be everywhere. So it's like I see aspects of it, and I see like the fun musical number. But for me, yeah, like you said, there's a lot of cringe to it, and the abundance of the word virgin in it, or yabas, or wabas, or whatever you refer to boobs
Yabos,
as.
which
Yeah.
was the '90s term, and like, look, I get it. Personally, I don't have as much of an aversion to the word virgin because I know that witches and witchcraft were created. Like a lot of the myths were created during that time where virginity was a thing. Like it was supposedly the purity and whatnot, and it is a construct, but a lot of the myths of witchcraft were created with the purity of virginity in mind. So I'm not as big on that, but the Yabos was a bit much for
Yeah.
me.
Now, see, I'd be willing to, let that go, but then, we had Turning Red this year, um, so nobody seemed to really care when, the words virgin or, allusions to boobs, in Hocus Pocus are, being tossed around like, I don't know, a football, or something. But then, like, Turning Red has the gall to, you know, metaphor female puberty, and actually has like a brief scene of menstrual paraphernalia, and everybody's like, oh my god, what, this is supposed to be for kids. Ugh. So it's like it's hard for me to really get behind
Yeah.
anybody defending Hocus Pocus, especially under that criticism.
Like, I mean, I can understand that, Doug, because like a lot of the dude bro sentiment, and speaking as a trans woman, like a lot of people just they want the female sexuality, but they don't want to talk about coming of age. Like they're like, oh, we can have them as sex objects, but we can't talk about actual bodily functions because blood is too much, or like, and speaking as someone who is a medical student, I'm like, guys, I talk about some things all the time because, like, they're bodily functions. We should not be grossed out by certain things. And yeah, like, I mean, I'm not going to talk about certain things on the air, but, like, we should not be prudish about certain things that we are.
It's like those people that have no problem with Victoria's Secret ads of women like almost basically showing off their tits, but the instant they see a woman breastfeeding, they lose their fucking shit.
Oh, it's not for it's not intended for that thing. No, like that's what breasts are. Men can do it too. Just whatever. Kat, do you want to weigh in on your thoughts?
I actually did kind of rewatch this, like, in between when we saw the sequel and, now. Because it just happened to come on. I'm like, you know what? I may as well just watch what's left over just for the sake of the podcast. And honestly, my opinions haven't changed from the first one. I still don't really care for this movie. Basically, the same reasons that Doug said. And I'm someone who actually saw it in theaters as a kid. I remember all the traumatic bits. I remember the cat getting run over, and I remember, the girl dying, and just like all the worst parts that you can possibly remember as a kid. And I even remember also asking my mom, what's a virgin, and her getting mad at me that I even knew that word. So, so yeah, like, I didn't understand it then. And then as an adult, I watched it again, and I'm like, okay, this is a good Halloween film, but seriously, the 90s cliches and all like the adult humor and stuff, like it just rubbed me the wrong way, because a lot of the lines is coming from an 8-year-old, and it's so uncomfortable. It's like, how do you know what a virgin is? How do you know what yabos are? Why are you speaking like this? It is so off-putting. And not to mention the leads, just, they're just not entertaining. They're not fun. They're more annoying than anything. Honestly, if it wasn't for the witches and for Billy Butcherson, I don't think anybody would have watched the first movie. So really, like, in that aspect, I can appreciate it because they put on a hell of a performance. Like, I will always give them kudos for that, despite what I may think about the movie as a whole.
Yeah, like, I don't fully agree. I still have a very adoration relationship with the movie. Like, I saw this when I was babysat back maybe like early tween years. So like this was one of like the first more adult Halloween films that I saw, and I fell in love. Like this was a tradition that I watched every Halloween. And seeing this again after seeing the second one, like I can certainly see a lot of the problems. Like Max is not the smartest character in the world. His little sister is not like, I like her acting, but I'm not gonna say it's like the best in the world. Like, and they give her a lot of adult lines, and I'm like, man, they're really lax in California if he's telling her this stuff. And so I guess this is the sequel to The Wizard. This is what happens when you let your kid go cross country to California.
California.
California. But like there's still like a lot of stuff that I do enjoy about it, and I think it's having a lot of fun with itself and not taking itself too seriously. Tonally, though, that is kind of a little bit at odds because there's some serious subject matter they try to delve into, and I feel like the best like example of this is the scene where they go into the school and they have like, I don't know if you've ever seen the Halloween episode of Boy Meets World.
Very long time ago.
I've never actually watched Boy Meets World.
There's a Halloween episode of Boy Meets World where like they're trapped inside school and detention and people are being picked off. And they have a lot of fun with it. It's like, welcome to John Adams High, where you are gonna die. Death
I remember that now, yeah.
on the menu tonight. And like someone dies, it's like, we'll always remember he was that tall. And it's like, I feel like they're trying to go with that type of mood. It's just that some things are a little bit too much for like the child character to really come across. Although like there's stuff that I really love. Like I love the opening with the authentic like costume and stuff like that. Like there's a really good cinematography in that aspect. It just, when it gets to the 90s isms, it is a little bit wince-inducing for me. Is there anything you want to add before we move on to the actual sequel?
Yeah, and I forgot to mention, when Kat mentioning, that them crushing Bex, that never sat right with me, and like even if it didn't actually kill him, it's like, just watching that made my skin crawl. Yeah.
Even seeing that again, I'm like, that's not necessary. It's a shock moment. It's a shock moment for Binks, but like, yeah.
Actually, the fun fact that I learned, the Disney Channel in the UK actually really heavily edited this movie for like television distribution, and obviously they cut out the part with Binks, or they would only like cut to it briefly, so you don't see him fully flattened. But they also cut out other stuff, and the bit like the witches being hanged and all that. The weirdest thing though, they kept cutting out Billy's head coming off. Like, and it ultimately doesn't make sense because in the climax, it's Billy's head falling off that causes the sister to step out of the salt circle to go chase him, and that's when she gets captured by Winifred. So that's essential, but because they cut out anything having to do with the head coming off, suddenly she runs out of the circle and is captured, and there's no rhyme or reason for it. So
well, that makes the movie even worse. Honestly, if you want to cut anything out of the movie, I would have cut out the devil sequence, because, like, don't get me wrong, I like Ed Asner. It is Ed Asner, isn't it?
No, Gary Marshall.
Why did I say it? I like Gary Marshall, but it's a very pointless scene. Like, I like a lot of the other jokey scenes, like, hey, we desire children. It may take me a few tries, but I'll
Hmm.
give it a shot.
No,
Like,
that
though,
that that scene is clearly for the parents that got dragged along to watch it.
Well,
Especially, it's Penny Marshall from Laverne and Shirley in there.
well, she's also the
oh,
director.
Yeah.
that's who she was. Okay, because, like, I only know Laverne and Shirley because of Quentin reviews. So I only know of this because of the stuff with iCarly project and how it kind of ends up. I watched Happy Days, but I never watched Laverne and Shirley, so I didn't know who the hell that was.
I mean, this scene only exists for really two reasons. One, it's to give Penny and her brother like a moment in the movie, just to like stick him in there for like I guess celebrity cred or something, and just have fun with that scene. The other, of course, was to make them leave their broomsticks behind so that they get the new ones later on, and we get that fun gag with the mop and the vacuum. So that's the only reason that scene exists. But yeah,
At
otherwise,
the
yeah,
same
it's a totally self-indulgent scene.
It is, and then at the same time, you mentioned while we were watching the second film, the reason why like Sabrina took the vacuum cleaner from this movie. So it's like even though it's kind of a throwaway scene, it led to one of the iconic thing where witches ride vacuum cleaners. So it's like it's weird.
It did have some fun moments with them, like looking at modern technology. Like Winifred's in the kitchen, she's like, a torture chamber. Like that,
Yes,
that you
like
got that you got to admit was
that.
funny. And then Mary watching the commercials, like that one baby commercial, like I always remembered that as a kid, and seeing her react to that always makes me laugh.
Or like when she's just like, oh, how did they get Ruth into this small form? It's like there are some really good jokes, and I think part of the reason why it has endured for so long with Hocus Pocus 1 is just how iconic these three sisters, and I'm convinced that part of this was ad-libbed on the part of these three. But Hocus Pocus 1, it has problems, but I definitely see why a lot of people love it as a classic. I do too. But with that being said, let us move on to Hocus Pocus 2, the film. The film that will make you summon the devil, according to someone in Texas.
I love she says that about the sequel as opposed to the first movie where there actually was a devil character.
And it's like Hocus Pocus 2 is actually a little bit tamer in that regard because they don't mention the devil at all, as far as I know, and there's a few other things. So it's just like I thought it was kind of funny.
Like
But
they
Kat, why don't
reference
you
the
give?
devil character like once or twice in the sequel, but that's about it. There's like no one who actively is like a devil character, unless you count like the mother at the beginning. But semantics.
Yeah, like they do reference the devil character, which was I thought that was a great callback. I like that they see that on TV, and I'm like, okay. But Kat, why don't you give us a brief rundown of Hocus Pocus 2, and then we'll dive into it.
Sure thing. So for starters, time for backstory. Yeah, we actually have backstory on the Sanderson sisters. We actually find out, why they became witches, and it's because apparently a witch gets her powers when she turns 16. Sabrina. um, but of course, but there's more to that because despite the fact that we see the sisters being the bad guys clearly throughout the entire film, the first, that wasn't quite the case in this one, because as we all know, this takes place in Salem, Massachusetts. Salem is an evil place because they persecute those who are different, and the Sandersons were no exception. They were three young sisters who recently became orphaned, and because Winifred just turned 16, clearly she's becoming an old hag, she has to get married right away. But she won't do it because she doesn't love the guy. She'd rather marry Billy Butcherson, because of that kiss they shared that one time. But unfortunately, the guy who runs the town, the Reverend, decides, no, you're a bad influence. I'm going to take your sisters away from you. This leads to them escaping, and then they meet Mother Witch, who is the one responsible both for introducing them to witchcraft, who gave them book, and basically set them up to be the antagonists we know and love. Flash forward to modern day. We get brand new protagonists. Basically, nobody from the original shows up, at least not the ones that we're thinking of here. We have brand new cast. We have Becca and Izzy, who are, witches in training. Basically your witch phase that you went through in high school. Um, they actually are into magic stuff. They do a ritual on Halloween. They're unfortunately estranged from their friend who used to do magic but now doesn't because she has a dumbass boyfriend that, annoys them. But it turns out that the candle they get from the guy who owns the magic shop, which was converted from the Sandersons' cottage, actually made another black flame candle. And it works. And the Sandersons are back again. And of course, they still want revenge and they still want to live forever. So we kind of have a repeat of the first film, except with way more competent characters, no 90isms, and in my opinion, even better laughs and even a few feels.
Yeah, like Hocus Pocus 2 to me is very much a remake, and there are ties to the first film that we're going to get into. There are stuff that they mention, but I think the thing that, the first takeaway that I got was like they set up in the very beginning like how they were persecuted and how they like, weren't initially fully evil, and there are some things that don't fully connect to the first film. So part of the reason why this is part of Emperor's New Remake is because this is just Hocus Pocus redone, but I think better because of how they set things up, and there are a couple things that do connect it to 2022, but it doesn't feel dated as a movie. It definitely feels like they put a lot of heart bringing things back. Now, I do like what they do with the Sanderson sisters here, because the very first scene is them showing, like, well, we're gonna have, you guys are orphaned, we're gonna have you forced to marry my son, otherwise you're gonna be excommunicated from your home. And I'm just, from the very beginning, I'm like, yeah, no, screw these guys. Screw this guy. I get it. This is Salem back in that time period, but like that's just no consent. They're not allowed to do anything. It's like, oh, they took the Lord's name in vain, and like they thought because they had a spider that they sicked the spider on them. It's like they're minions of the devil with the spider. Oh, it's on me, the eight-legged thing of Satan.
The funny thing is that species of spider isn't even like aggressive. In fact, it's entirely harmless, and its bite can't even break skin. So that's what makes it even funnier.
So the very beginning, I'm kind of on board with the Sanderson sisters, because like we see that like they see everything as a sign of the devil, and they're so like stupid, and then they go into the Forbidden Forest, and they really find like they have this really interesting sequence where this person is about to steal their souls in the same way that like they did in the first film, but then they see them, it's like, wait a second, you are actually witches, you're here because you're persecuted. And so she gives them the book, tells them not to use a specific spell, and then goes away. And I think this is a really good interpretation. It doesn't fit with like, given a book by the devil himself and stuff like that. I think the original line was bound in human flesh by the devil himself, but like it kind of eschews that, but I'm fine with it because it gives a more sympathetic origin. It's like she was given power to fight back against those who wronged her and her sisters, and they spent years tormenting the people of Salem and actually like being witches before they were finally caught and killed. So I think it actually makes them more sympathetic characters. They're not any less evil, and I think what works about this is that like they're shown, they're not redeemed, but they do a good job in taking these characters and saying, hey, it's not all black and white, there's a lot of gray here, but as they grew on with their power, they grew addicted to their power, and so like that's what really grew to their like villainy. um would you agree with that, Doug?
I mean, I guess. I mean, it's kind of what Kat tends to say. It's like you kind of have to have somebody who's a bigger asshole or bigger, evil, to make, our actual villains look sympathetic by comparison. And I feel that's kind of what it's doing here. Um, I mean, obviously, people of Salem were huge assholes, huge, religious, superstitious, cowardly people that, did just horrible things. So it's like I can't fault them on that. And I mean, yeah, it is kind of, interesting to, see where the Sandersons actually came from, and that, it's it is important, obviously, to show their sisterly bond and how big that is, that it's kind of them against the world at this point. So to have the sisters potentially being taken unless Winifred actually marries against her will is like, yeah, I can't help but feel for them.
I think the other thing that really works about this is the actresses who play the young Sanderson sisters do such a good job, especially the one who
Mm-hmm.
plays young Winifred. I was reading up on this in an article. Apparently, she rewatched the first Hocus Pocus 40 times in order to get down the
That's
mannerisms
too
and
much,
like
man.
and like she does this thing with her like hands, and like she goes big and extravagant, and like I just think she does such a great job of like endearing us to these characters, and like just I don't know, Kat, what do you think?
Oh, I completely agree. I was blown away by their performances. Like they were basically mini me's for all three sisters, and despite how I've seen people react about this film as a whole, like even like the haters admit that the part with the little girls was easily the best thing about the movie. Just seeing like these younger versions of the sisters who were just so pitch perfect in their performances and their deliveries and how they looked and everything. Like that just, that could have been the movie itself, just a prequel about the sisters. I totally would have been down for that, honestly. Like, you really got to give kudos to these young girls. Like, I don't know how, but I hope in some way they win like awards for their performances. They were just that damn good.
They were really good. I do have to agree, they really stole the show. Before we get into stuff in the future, I do want to say something, and it's like I don't want to make this the focus of the episode because like it's honestly I didn't give them any money, but
I mean, you did if you have
Bette
a
Midler.
subscription.
Well, I didn't specifically
Yeah.
give Bette Midler any money,
Oh
but
no,
like
Bette
Bette Midler,
Midler.
she is unfortunately a turf, much like J.K. Rowling. Now, the difference between Bette Midler and say like Harry Potter, if I buy anything Harry Potter related, as stated in a recent tweet, J.K. Rowling ain't gonna care. She's gonna get her royalty check and she's gonna make bank off it and still be a turf. Um, with Bette Midler, it's a little bit. I'm a little bit less torn on supporting this film simply because she's only one aspect. So what I say here is not me supporting Bette Midler. It's just I love Hocus Pocus and I want to talk about the sequel, and so like I needed to get that out of the way because I know like Crimson isn't watching this film simply because Bette Midler is a turf.
It sucks too because she does a lot of good charity work and is a big icon in the LGBT community. And I just, wish that this aspect of her didn't exist. So I didn't have to feel guilty with watching this movie because she does such a good performance. She's one of the best things about this. And it just sucks that this aspect exists about her.
Yeah, it really does suck, especially because one of the things that I learned is that, in addition to watching the film 40 times, young Winifred, that actress, she actually got to talk to Bette Midler, and she's like, Midler was basically saying like, okay, don't be afraid to go over the top. Winifred is always moving, always doing this stuff, and I think her direction actually did help with that as well. It's
Mm-hmm.
just a shame that like I can't enjoy that direction. But I'm just gonna get it out of the way. We're not gonna bring it up again. Just I needed to say that. Anything else before we move on?
I wanted to talk about Hannah Waddingham's performance as Mother Witch. Like, I was surprised she showed up
Ooh.
in this, but damn, did she make an entrance. I was so happy to see her, like, because I just got into Ted Lasso, so seeing her as the boss, like, in this movie, that was just great. And, like, she looks so good, too. And from what I read, this isn't the first time she's played a witch, because she's a big, like, theater actress, so she's played the Wicked Witch of the West in Wizard of Oz, and she's played the witch in Into the Woods. So this role is just like made for her.
It's a hat trick now. It's a witch hat trick.
It just sucks that she wasn't in it
Mhm.
more. Like it's just the beginning scene and that's it. Like I really wish we had more. Like I'll get more of my thoughts toward the end, but yeah, what we saw of her, she was awesome. I loved
Yeah,
it.
I want to add to that, if I can steal a moment, because Hannah Waddington is a really good singer. Um, In fact, kind of a Disney related thing. She actually, there's a scene in one of the episodes where she sings Let It Go from Frozen at karaoke, and it's actually her singing. They didn't like pre record it or anything like that, didn't dub over her. It's actually her legit singing, and she has pipes. Uh, so,
I bel I believe she sang "Come Little
That's the
Children"
thing.
like before her entrance.
I wish that they had like given her a musical number in this because yeah, it's cool that she sang a little bit of "Come Little Children" in there, but you barely hear it in there. It's just kind of playing in the background, and it's like I'm like I know they're doing a third movie, and it's pretty much you know it looks like she's going to be a big part of it. So I hope in that they have her get a big number.
Yeah, me too. Cause like the way they set it up in this, I feel like she's gonna be part of the next film, especially given the way how they end things. And like part of me is like, I wish they utilized her more, but I feel like setting her up now is so she's a bigger player in a third film is a smart move on their part because we already know the Sanderson sisters were here for the Sanderson sisters. So like this is more their movie.
That is
Yes.
true, yeah. Because I do hope, if we do indeed get a third one, she's a part of it. Because it'd be a shame to waste that actress. She's, like, so talented. And I just want to see her just evil it up and be, like, the ultimate witch.
So the film takes place in 2022, where we flash forward. It's a magic shop run by a guy who's taken residence in the cottage of the Sanderson sisters. So it's been refurbished from a museum into a magic shop, and this guy named Gilbert is the owner of the magic shop and is telling the legend of the Sanderson sisters. And Gilbert is so dumb because he makes the black flame candle and he tricks the young girls into summoning his sisters again. Because like he says he learned about the story of the Sanderson sisters and how they were wronged by people of Salem, even reading the mayor's journals, and like he wanted to redeem them and wanted to bring them back because he was fascinated by them. But like he's kind of a dumbass in a lot of ways. And like I like him, but I think he's frustrating. Like he has a black cat named Cobweb who's supposed to be Thackeray Binks like reference, and he has the book, and he used a book to make another black flame candle. And as they stated in the first film, the black flame candle is made from the fat of a hanged man. How did he do that?
Good
Did he
question.
kill somebody?
Honestly, I believe it.
Maybe.
No, here's the thing about Gilbert. He's not just stupid, he's a bad person. Like, we see him do nothing but bad this entire movie. Like, he tricks the girls into lighting the actual candle. He brings the sisters back for some unknown reason, knowing that they have killed children, that they will try to kill children again because they need them in order to live forever. And
But no, it was the people of Salem who were bad. Like both sides, guys.
that totally excuses them from killing children. Like, no, it doesn't. They're still bad people, but he wants to bring them back anyway, and he naturally gets screwed over for it. So in order to save his own skin, he digs up poor Billy, lies to him, and pretty much strings him along the rest of the movie, making him think that he's trying to, come up with a curse in order to kill them, when in actuality, he's, like, trying to help them. And not only that, he steals Billy's head. And then, like,
Yeah.
hands him over to the witches, and then only then does he get a comeuppance, sort of, or at least he gets his ass zapped. But yeah, all the bad stuff that happens in this movie is because of him. And yeah, he does sort of apologize, and he does promise to tell the real story about Billy, but it's like, dude, no, you're an ass. You're a complete ass. You deserve to get screwed over like you did.
You know what he reminds me of? He's like the Hamilton of the film, where he's just like he has lofty goals and ambitions. He wants to be this like great person, and he's all into the history. Damn the consequences. Like, how can I say no to this? Um, but like that's kind of the person he is. And granted, I will give him this. Part of the reason why he goes along with like helping the Sanderson sisters is he stupidly gives them an hourglass and they curse him, so when the sands of the hourglass tip over, and he's not done with like his part of the deal, he would die. So like I can understand that portion, but he does lie to Billy and do a few bad things. At the same time, his subplot with Billy is kind of one of the fun parts of the film, because we actually get to see Doug Jones do stuff now.
I will agree. It does give like Billy like a little more to do, and it shows him actually having fun, despite the fact that he's dead. But again, it's all under false pretenses. Like, if Gilbert really wanted to like salvage a situation without hurting anyone further, he would have just told Billy the truth, and Billy probably could have helped him come up with a way to like trap them. Because even he knew, it's like, dude, even if you help them and they lift the curse, they're gonna kill you anyway. And sure enough, that's what they do. Like, granted, they don't actually kill him, but point is, like, Gilbert could have, used, like, Billy to his advantage in a better way than how he did, because he just basically screwed the poor guy over and took him out of, like, the finale.
Yeah. Although I want to give this over to Doug, because I know Doug's a big fan of Doug Jones.
Am I? What?
Weren't you talking about him during the first podcast, or am I just
you might be thinking of Kat talking about him. I know we've brought him up before because he showed up in an episode of the Trickening episode of DuckTales. Yeah,
okay.
and
Okay.
I know Kat probably
I'm
talked about him
misremembering
during
things.
Hocus Pocus, the first one. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily, and nothing against the guy. I thought he was great in this. But yeah, I wouldn't call myself like a super fan of his.
Okay, maybe I'm just misremembering, but I like that Doug Jones got a lot more to do in this. He actually gets to talk. He has fun. They do they do follow up on him from the first film, because like he's been lying in that grave for a while, but it doesn't make sense considering they were killed, and like Binks in the first film was able to go to heaven, but not him. So it's like
I didn't understand that part.
like this is part of why like this is a remake. I'm just like, let's just treat this as a remake, because like that doesn't make sense. And Gilbert's like the whole reason why Gilbert like is a fan of the Sanderson sisters is that as a kid he saw them being destroyed because he was coming to the graveyard. I'm like, but all the kids were hypnotized at that point. What are you talking about?
I might have an explanation for that. I've heard a lot of speculation from people that said that Gilbert is an actual magic user the same way Becca is, and that's why he wasn't affected like the other children, because, witches' spells don't work on other witches. And that's probably the reason why he wanted to bring them back, was to have them teach him spells and stuff. Because think about it, how else would he have gotten Book to actually open up spells to him to teach him how to make another candle? Like, because
You
the book.
know, if they outright stated that, that would have been actual, like, I would have been fine with that, because that actually is a good explanation.
Mhm. Yeah, because that would have made all the sense, and I don't know why they just didn't state that in the movie, because otherwise it just sounds like he's a dumbass fanboy who doesn't understand the gravity of the situation he's getting himself into, doesn't understand that these are bad, evil people that he should not be resurrecting. It's like, what do you want to say next? That, Hitler was misunderstood. I'm sure if we hear him out, he'll make all the sense. Like, come on, give me a break here. Like,
No, they stayed in, like, the beginning with the original owner of the book. She's just like, well, don't you suck the lives out of children? It's like, how else will I stay young and beautiful? Maybe that's what Gilbert is saying. Like, I want to stay young and beautiful too.
that makes it even worse.
Yep, yep. So maybe he is a magic user. That would be interesting. I would be down with that. It's just they are very vague about it. Anyway, that's all I'm gonna say about that subplot. I do like it. I think Doug Jones is very fun. I like that they give him more to do, and like his bonding with Gilbert is fun, even if Gilbert is the worst. Um,
Yeah, Billy's my homeboy, man. I feel so bad for him. Like, here's the thing. Like, I was surprised that they changed all that with this, but I understand why. Because in the first film, they say that the reason he ended up the way he was because he was Winifred's boyfriend, and he cheated on her with Sarah. So in retribution, she poisoned him and sewed his mouth shut. So that explains why he is the way he is. And in a way, it kind of feels justified because, anybody who's gotten cheated on, like, let's face it, you've wanted to do that to your ex at one point or another. But the thing is, like, in this one, it actually kind of absolves him of all that, because now I don't even think there was an affair, because he was never in a relationship with Winifred. Like he said, they shared one kiss that one time as kids. They were never in an actual relationship. And if anything, I'm willing to bet Sarah just came on to him because she flirts with everyone, and Winifred just blew it out of proportion and killed the guy for no reason. So that makes him even more of a tragic figure, which is
yeah.
sadder, but it makes him more sympathetic too.
I do like that they added to his backstory, and like it just kind of recontextualizes things. And it's just like everyone always tells that side of the story, but that's not how it was. And it's like when they showcase the past version, and she's like, "My boyfriend Billy," he's just like, "Wait, what? What, me? What?" It's like, no, it's kind of a delusion that Winifred put up, and like kind of a rumor that spread around, and I can understand that. See, that's part of what I like about it being a sequel. It's like I still consider it more remake, but they recontextualize certain scenes, and I think it does a good job of showing that like maybe Thackeray wasn't as well informed simply because he was informed by the Sanderson sisters. So
Hmm.
I like that. I think this does give a lot more depth to Billy. But I think the biggest change that I like is like the new group of teens. Well, I do have trouble remembering their names. I know one is Becca, and but I can't remember the other two. But
Izzy and
their
Cassie.
character, Izzy and Cassie. I may like Becca the most, but I think that Izzy and Cassie and all three of them actually have more character than Max and the three leads from the first film, because like they are kids. They're, when I was a kid, I would always, I would have like Ouija board seances and stuff like that. And, we would do like certain things. And as you get older, you get like into boys. And we'll talk about the boyfriend in a minute because he's a delight. But I like this group of kids. I don't think they're the most fully fleshed out as they could be. And again, I do have kind of trouble remembering outside of Becca, Izzy, Cassie. But like aside from that, like, I think they are good characters. Would you agree, Kat?
I can't really say because here's the thing. As I stated before, I did not like the kids in the first one. I thought they were really obnoxious, very like stereotypical, and just overall an annoyance. But at least I knew what their characters were. Like, you know, Max is your typical jaded 90s teenager from California. Danny was like the annoying younger sister, and then Allie was the generic hot love interest. At least them, I knew what they were. And these girls, don't get me wrong, I think their performance is good. I think it's perfectly suitable. I like that for the most part they seem competent. I think that, they do a good job with what they're given and stuff. I just feel that they're horribly underwritten cuz
Yeah,
I really
yeah.
can't say like what their main distinct like personalities are. It's like, yeah, two of them are still into witchcraft, but it's not like they're kooky or like gothic or anything. It's not like from The Craft where you can distinguish all the different witches that are in the coven and stuff. Like these three girls are kind of interchangeable. The only difference being is that
And
Cassie is the one that kind of grows out of her witch phase and dates a himbo for a while, but then she ultimately gets back with her friends.
I have to agree. Like, I'm not a big fan of Cassie, to be honest. Like, I think she was the most underwritten out of the three because, like, we barely see her until like the party stuff, and like honestly, they could have used another scene with her. Like that's kind of like the duality of these characters. Is like I think they're better acted, but they're not as well written as Max, if that makes sense. Because like with at least I knew what Max was all about. I knew Allison. I knew like what they were into. I can't really say that about most of them outside of Becca because Becca was like had the amazing scene at the beginning where she starts quoting like herbs like spices.
That part was funny. I will agree that her just like taking advantage of ignorance just to like mess with people. Like it's a good, symbolic thing showing that, she's destined to become like the next head witch the same way Winifred was. I do appreciate that. It just I
Yeah.
wish there was more stuff like that, something that really made her stand out more of a character because even then she's the one that's supposed to have like the big change throughout this movie because this is the when she gets her powers, but it's kind of like not the focus. Like the focus is more on the sisters than anything. It's like, yeah, she gets her powers and steadily realizes that throughout the film, but it's never really the focus. She just kind of learns as she goes along and then suddenly she has the book and then that's it. It just I don't know. It just felt like I said, they were just we have to make one of them a magic user for sake of convenience to the plot. So let's just do this.
So it's like it's this weird dichotomy. I like these characters more, but I think part of the reason why I had trouble remembering their names is because they aren't as distinct as the previous leads. Would you say that, Doug?
Yeah, I agree with Kat a lot. It's like they're very underwritten. Um, they don't really stand out aside from the fact that like when you see them all together, you notice that they have like the similar hairstyle to the Sandersons themselves. Uh, so it's like, okay, you got that going for you. You got the fact that, they're legit magic users. They got that going for them. That they're not idiots. Okay, I appreciate that. But aside from that, yeah, there's really not much I can remember about them. I'm with you. I can't remember names.
Yeah, I have a hard time. I can remember faces. I have a hard time remembering names, and this was harder for me. And it's like this isn't to the movie's detriment. I've had a lot of films where like leads are underwritten, and I thought the film was boring because of it. I don't think it's to the film's detriment in this case. In this case, mostly because like they aren't supremely the focus, and I think they're going to be more the focus
Yeah.
next film.
Honestly, this
But
this kind of feels like uh what you call it, the equivalent of like Despicable Me 2, where it's like, hey, you guys like the Minions? Well, we're really gonna like push them more. and I love the Minions. I love the Despicable Me franchise, but it's like it becomes very glaring very early on that they're pushing the Minions, and that's basically what's happening here with the Sanderson sisters. Is like, oh yeah, you guys love the Sanderson sisters in this, so we're gonna really put more emphasis on them. And oh wait, there's other characters. Shit, we gotta write them too.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, this is probably the last movies that like the three could star in together, so I think they really wanted to go all out with it. And to that extent, I think they do a good job. There are issues. Before we talk about the stars of the show, let's briefly talk about the mayor. The mayor is Cassie's dad. Um,
Tony Hale, I
All the
like
cringe.
you. I really do, but oh god, Disney, stop with the cringy characters.
Now, I don't like using the word cringe. I prefer not to it because people have taken all meaning from the word cringe and they're like, "Oh, this is so cringe." And I'm like, "Guys, they're just acting." But like this is one of the few times where I'm just like it is wince inducing, kind of like the first film, cuz his whole thing is that Cassie and the mayor are descendant of the mayor from Salem's original town, who was, oh, Satan this and Satan that, and he's this like straight laced Ned Flanders
Well, he's a
type
reverend,
character.
so it makes sense.
Yeah, he's a reverend. So like we have this like really straight laced person, and his whole subplot is that he wants one of these candy apples and he never gets the candy apple because of the shenanigans going on, and he never catches on to the things around him. And now, here's my thing. I found a lot of his subplot funny, but it's so unnecessary. Like, he's just there filling time, and it's like, I get it. I know you want to do some funny things, but, like, candy apples are not that good. As a kid, I tried one. I've never been a fan of candy apples. I'm sorry. They hurt my teeth. They're not very good. I'm not a big fan. But, like, his whole subplot is just, I must have this candy apple. And he just get a store-bought one at the end. And it's just, eh.
Honestly, like I'm scarred for life with ever eating candy apples, and it's because of my ex, because he got a candy apple once, but I guess it was out too long, so it solidified real hard. So when he bit into it, he actually broke off half of his tooth. And yeah,
Ugh.
it did not look pretty. He had to have dental work done just to make himself look, not like a hillbilly. But yeah, ever since that happened, I'm like, I am never touching a candy apple. So seeing him like so gung ho about getting it, I'm like, oh, my teeth are like shuddering just thinking about biting into that thing.
So yeah, like there are things that I don't like about it, but like there are parts that I really do. Like when he comes back and he sees the Sanderson sisters, he's already broken up Cassie's party, and he's so done with everything that he's just like just let it go. Like I like that kind of playing off of it, like he's that clueless. But aside from that, like he feels like a pointless addition. Would you agree, Doug?
Oh yeah. Oh my god. Like not even so much pointless. Like he is kind of there to be conflict because, like you said, he punishes his daughter when they let him know that she's having the party with boys. Yeah, but his whole thing about like oh the I don't know. He acts like one of those creepy adults that really should not be anywhere near children. Um, it's like if when you're first introduced to him as the mayor, it's like you don't even realize that he's the other girl's father. So he just like comes up to what's her name, Cassie, and like, oh, somebody's having a birthday. Oh my
Rebecca.
god. Yeah, Becca, excuse me. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like it's like. Oh God, I need a shower.
Stranger
This
danger,
is
stranger danger.
yeah. I need an
Well,
adult, and I am
hi
an
diddly
adult.
ho there, neighbor.
You like popsicles?
Oh, it's like yeah, he doesn't really do much to better himself. And like I said, I love Tony Hale. I love him and Harley Quinn as Dr. Psycho.
He's
I
great.
think he's great. But oh man, this role was just kill it with fire. It's like you're wanting the Sanderson sisters to freaking and rub him out.
Yeah, please.
Ugh.
Um,
Oh, cute.
now,
Sorry, real quick. One fun little fact I wanted to mention: this movie actually premiered on his birthday, his 52nd birthday. So I thought that was kind of cute. It's like, happy birthday, Tony Hale. Here's a movie in which you give a really cringy performance. Enjoy.
and now let's briefly talk about the himbo boyfriend. So the boyfriend at first is someone who I thought would be like the antagonist, because he is kind of bullying the other girls, and he is very clueless. But I kind of actually like him because like he is just so dumb to the point where he doesn't understand like basic things. And at the end of the film, they're just like, "That's what bullying is. I thought I was just making conversation. I have so many people I need to apologize to." Like I kind of love him. He's just that dumb.
Like, I get what they were doing. Like, I didn't really care for it, but I get what they were doing. They're trying not to go the typical, like, nasty bully route that they did with the first two guys, which I can appreciate because that cliche is just so overdone and so eye-rollingly bad. Like, it actually was kind of refreshing. They went the opposite with this. But even so, just how dumb they made this character. It's like, boy, how are you even in high school with the level of intelligence you display?
Well, he's a football star, so like, you
Actually,
know.
you know who you reminded me of? The football star in Daria,
Hmm.
because it's kind of the same thing there in that he is a popular kid and he's dumb, but it's not because he's like bad or anything. He's not even really a bully. He's just privileged and stupid. So I think that's what they were going for with here, in that typical dumb person mentality. So like they say things that they think aren't insulting, but it turns out they really are insulting. So yeah.
I honestly liked him. I thought he was funny, especially like at the end where he sees the headless zombie and he starts running away. Like, honestly, like I had a lot of fun with this character because I thought I was gonna hate him from the very beginning when like they start listing the ingredients and like he's just like, come on, like stop, she's putting a spell on me. And I thought for a second like he was gonna be an antagonist, but nope. He's just really dumb, and I think that was a good reversal there. I think that he did a good job with that like reinvention of the character. um do you have anything to add, Doug, before we move on to the stars?
I got it. It ain't funny, but I got it.
Okay, Meatwad. Dancing is forbidden.
Come on, the Tanglin.
That's a shame because there's a lot of dancing in this movie.
MC Pan says dancing is forbidden. Anyway, let's talk about the stars of the show. The Sanderson sisters. They're back. They're better than ever, and they are portrayed extremely well. Yes, you can tell that these actresses are starting to get up there in age, but like they still put their all into it, and like they are living it up. And honestly, I think this is a better performance to me than the first film, because like they were having a lot of fun in the first film, but here they're shown depth. And it's not just the opening scene, it's like the thing is they are shown to have the biggest thing in their lives is their sisters. They love each other, which is a little bit different from the first film because like she keeps saying, "Oh, why was I cursed with these idiots of a sisters?" But here like the whole crux is that like the most precious things to Winifred is her coven, like her sisters, and she's doing everything to give them immortality. And they give a lot more sympathy and depth to these characters because by the end of the film, spoilers, by the end of the film, they do this forbidden spell that they're not supposed to do that gives them maximum power, but because they did the spell, it sacrifices what you love the most, and it's her two sisters. And she ends up using another spell just to bring them back because she says, "My power means nothing if not for my sisters." And it's such a really good moment, and you can see it build up throughout the film how like they do kind of drive her nuts, but she loves them, and I think it just gives so much more depth to these characters. Doug.
I mean, I think obviously they're having a lot of fun with it, and yeah, I mean, honestly, it's like I don't like much of the movie, but I see why. Again, the charm of the sisters. Um, I definitely enjoy like Kathy Najimy in this a lot more than I did in the first movie. I feel like they give her and Sarah Jessica Parker a little more to do, though not too much. I think Kathy Najimy kind of gets like a little creepy though. Like I know they're really horny and weird, and they like suspect the girls of kind of lying about their age, but it's kind of fun to see her interactions with them, like how obsessive she is towards them, creeping on them. Like, dang it, Peggy. Um, I do think that is one thing I like more over with this movie over the original movie is I do feel like at least in the end and in the beginning there's a lot more sincerity. The fact that the plot winds up ultimately, you know, she wants the ultimate power, but it will cost her sisters, and how much she actually loves them, is protective of them. And the fact that, when faced with the fact that she's losing them, she's willing to give it all up to be with them again. I'm like, okay, you touched me, movie. You touched me.
Hmm.
Ew. Ew.
Not in that way. I know this movie's horny, but come on.
As Jack Black once said in School of Rock, they've touched me, and I'm pretty sure I've touched them too.
I'm sure they did.
What do you think, Kat?
No, I appreciate them actually like giving sisters more depth. Don't get me wrong. I love the fact that they are just three straight up evil women who love to do evil. I like that. I respect that completely. I do think they are a bit creepy, obviously, for their obsession with children, but, given the context of the film, it makes sense. But like I said, I appreciate what they did in terms of like how they gave them depth because I've made it no mystery of my hatred of the current Disney remakes where they try to take a villain and then make a live action story about them where they become the sympathetic anti-villain. I hate those stories. I hate when Maleficent did it. I hate it when Cruella did it. Like, I just hate that in general. Like, the fact that you have to turn a villain good in order to make them sympathetic, that it's like, do you even have writers in the room? Like, come on. Like, there are ways to do it without totally obliterating their character and motivations. Like, they already did it in Aladdin with Iago. He's a prime example of someone who does become good, but he's still the same nasty evil parrot we all know and love. And this is what they did with the Sanderson sisters. It's like, at the end of the day, they are still murdering child killers. They are still people who hold grudges, who will totally betray and try to kill those that help them. They are still the same in that aspect. And but now they have the added motivation of the fact that they value each other above everything else. Like the fact that you have Winifred totally give up everything just to be with her sisters. Like that really that touched my heart a lot. Like I will admit, I teared
Yeah,
up a bit,
yeah.
and I'm someone who has a lot of siblings. And honestly, if I were given in the same situation where I had to give up my siblings in order to like gain ultimate power, I'd do the same thing. I'd give it all up. I'd go to the afterlife in lieu of like ever having to be parted from them. Like, and it's the same thing. Like, even in the first movie, I know people say that it doesn't make sense that she's always beating them up, she's always talking down to them, and always slapping them around and whatever, just like ordering around like they're minions more than siblings. But it's like, if you're an older sibling, you know what this is. Like that's kind of the
I mean,
whole
yeah,
older
to be
older younger
fair.
sibling dynamic. And even then, there are times where I've wanted to, like, slap the shit out of my siblings for the stupid shit that they do. But at the end of the day, I will die for them if the opportunity comes down to it.
Yeah, that is true, because, like, I have an older sister. I used to drive her nuts, but then at the end of the day, as we grew older, we were much more together, and, like, she's the one who I told about my transition before anyone else, and, like, I feel like that bond is really what it's all about. It's like, yeah, you argue, you fight, your family. It's like in DuckTales where they're all fighting with each other. Your family, families fight.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. It's the ultimate form of love.
And like I do think they set it up really well with the mother witch figure saying like don't use this spell. Book doesn't like this spell, and she won't say why, and like it gives the impression that she used the spell and she lost her coven, and the way she's like keep your coven, they're the most precious thing to you. Like they do a really good job with that, and I think the heart of the movie is still there. Now the humor of the movie is also still there, and honestly I kind of like this better because there are still fish out of water stuff when they go to the Walmart and they
Walgreens.
get like the Walgreens, and they get the Swiffer and the Roombas and stuff like that. But like I still think it's funny because like those are the things that you would do in today's society. It's like, well, there are beauty products there, and when they started like eating the face mask, I was like, oh god,
the face of a child.
It's so funny because like yeah, they are so far removed that they wouldn't understand that, rather than like a road. And it just like there are some really funny gags here, like the Roombas have a mind of their own and they clear away the salt, and it's like it's really well done humor that comes back. Like none of the jokes feel like they're just put there pointlessly just to set up something later. There is like a setup and a payoff to everything.
I gotta say, I know it sounds weird, but I just love the hell out of the Walgreens scene. Just seeing them like react to the fluorescent lighting and how they handle the beauty products and the substitution of the cleaning products they use to fly. Like the best visual gag is just Sarah Jessica Parker on the Swiffer and Kathy Najimy on the Roombas. Like I saw, like they kind of already spoiled that in the promotional poster, and even then I thought it was hilarious. But seeing it in the movie, like I just thought it was genius. It was that at one point you see them flying, and then there's like bubbles coming out of the Swiffer Sarah Jessica Parker's writing.
I was fortunate enough that I actually didn't see the poster. I saw like some of the promotional material, but I didn't know this scene. So when I saw it, I'm like, oh my god, like they have it in the two Roombas. I'm like, there's a reason why this is in our title card in the thumbnail, because like just oh god. And oh, a fun fact, we each took a personality quiz of which Sanderson sister we are, and I got Winifred, so like the thumbnail's accurate.
Yep, I got Sarah.
I got a rock.
Peggy is not a rock. Take that back.
So most of this film, I think, is improvement on what came before. There are still problems, but I think overall a lot of it is really just let's take what worked, kind of reboot it, have some more fun with it. There are problems, but overall it's a more fun, humorous, enjoyable watch. The only detriment I feel, and this is not a super huge detriment, I think the music is not as catchy, because the first film, the songs are one of the big highlights for me. I Put a Spell on You is in Come Little Children are two songs that like they stick with you for ages. The first song in the film, The Witch is Back, kind of comes out of nowhere.
Oh no, they're like reviving them. So it's like we're back, and now we're gonna do an Elton John song, but replace bitch with witch. That's kind of a lot of the humor of this is, let's replace bitch with witch.
Like, that's the thing, like, I didn't even know it was an Elton John song, and I'm a fan of Elton John, but I didn't know about it. It just kind of, it comes out of nowhere for me. What I will say though is that the second song in the movie is really enjoyable when they go on stage and they lose the Sanderson sisters look-alike contest, so
To
they make
drag
a
queens.
song to drag queens, which I thought that was hilarious. I thought it was really funny, and then they used the song as an actual purpose to get them to find the Reverend Mayor, and I think this is actually good because as much as I love I Put a Spell on You, and I think it's a better song, it didn't really serve much purpose aside from distracting the parents. It's like it's there. It's a set piece. It's one of the biggest scenes. I've been to the town hall where it was filmed. I get why it was there, but like it's it's kind of a throwaway piece in terms of the plot. But then here the song, like, we got to get the mayor, like, it's catchy, it's a great number, and they bring an army of minions and follow them while flying on Roombas. I think it's actually, while not as good a musical number, it's a better sequence. Kat?
Yeah, in that regard, I definitely agree. Because I really appreciate that they used their singing powers to actually aid in their evil plot. Because you think they would have done that a hell of a lot sooner. Like, because they established that they can hypnotize people with their singing. They established it with Sarah at the beginning with when she hypnotizes children to come to their cottage. It's like, if you can hypnotize both children and adults alike, why aren't you utilizing this more? So the fact that they actually did that in this, like, I definitely appreciate that. It sucked that they moved so fucking slow and that all they did was find him. They didn't actually seize him and bring him back to them. That kind of ruined it a bit, but just the whole spectacle of it I thought was fun. And for whatever reason, like, them doing the Thriller dance was just amusing. Like, or at least some semblance of the Thriller dance. I also like the callbacks, like, because you see some of the costumes, they actually are dressed up like the characters from the first movie, including the mom with her Madonna cone tits.
What do you think, Doug?
Yeah, I kind of want to, agree with that. It's like when it first came on and they're doing, I was like, oh God, they're ruining one way or another. And I'm like kind of grumbling and hemming and hawing through the thing. But then they get to like the magic words and, incantations, the chant, and they're using the instrumental to score as the townspeople are searching for the mayor, and I got into it. I'm like, okay, this is actually kind of working for me.
You know what this reminds me of? Remember Rugrats the movie when they used one way or another in
Yes.
kind of a
Yeah.
similar
Yes, I do.
way? That's the same exact thing I get for it. It's like it's not as good as Blondie's, obviously, because like it was sung by about Cynthia, but it's just the production of it. It's so bombastic and in your face, and they do such a good job, and it's so enjoyable that like yeah, I don't think it's perfect, but I love their one way or another. The witch is back. I could take or leave.
I could
Also,
mostly
Zen,
leave.
also, Zen, did you see that clip I showed you from Dancing with the Stars?
I did not get a chance to see it, unfortunately. For those who don't know, I have spent the last like 2 days recording the Coraline script. So like, I don't know when this is gonna come out because of Coraline, but whenever I record like a lot with my more feminine voice, I get so tired that I start to sleep. So I didn't get to see it, but I know you sent it to me, and I'm just like, damn it.
Yeah, for those of you who don't watch Dancing with the Stars, they usually do theme weeks. Try to make it a little more visually interesting. So the latest week at the time of this recording that they did was Disney Plus night. So they did a lot of things, typically of the movies that we all know, both animated and live action. But they also threw in other stuff like The Simpsons, like Hamilton. They also did Hocus Pocus 2 specifically, I should say, because the song that is played is One Way or Another. I don't know these celebrities per se. It's Jesse James Decker and Alan Bernstein, who's the dancer partner. So they danced Hocus Pocus as Billy and Sarah, which I think is hilarious since we never hear about their affair. So part of me is thinking, wait, are they reenacting how they got together and why Winnie cursed him? But not only do they look the part, but they nailed the dancing. Like the great production values, and they did a great jive to the song. Like seriously, go watch the clip. It's on YouTube. But now, whenever I'm like watching the movie, I'm like half tempted to like. I start thinking, wait, how would this look if they actually danced to that?
So yeah, like I like the one way or another sequence. I think it's a great version, and I think that they did a great job overall. If I had to say what really makes this better for me than the original is that in addition to kind of updating everything, the plot points all finally come together. Rewatching the original, I love a lot of the sequences, but a lot of it feels aimless. You have point A, point B, in the same way that a lot of 90s movies have, like, we have the sequence in mind, but we don't have, like, how it connects with the plot. And that's what, like, this song does for me. It's just like, okay, we have this good sequence. How does it fit in the plot? How can we make things gel together? Like, the circle of salt actually is a force field to them and prevents them from getting close, and they do a lot of good with these sequences, like the when they trick the sisters and like into finding them, and they just quickly create a circle of salt around them so they can't escape. Brilliant. Like, that to me is what this film does better than the original. Is it as quotable? I think so. Is it as memorable? I think so. Is it quite as cult classic-y? Probably not. But I think they make it work better than the original. Kat?
Oh, definitely. They improve upon so much from the original, and I know you don't see it being as big of a Halloween classic as like the first one. I mean, to be fair, you have a 30-year difference here, so that there's been time for people to build up nostalgia, and this movie is clearly more aimed at the older generation than the younger. But at the same time, that doesn't stop it from being enjoyable. And to be fair, you don't really need to watch the first one to understand what's going on in this one. There's a lot that they do for the most part a good job of filling in the blanks. They make it fun, they make it serious, they make it scary, they make it emotional. Like, they hit a lot of good points with this, and just the flow of the story, it's a lot more, what's the word I'm looking for. It just feels like there's more stakes at hand, I guess. It just feels like more we're going like, okay, boom, 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 next plot, next plot. Instead of, because at one point in the first movie, they kind of take a break and go to sleep. It's like, okay, I guess the movie's over. Oh, wait, the witches are conveniently alive again. Oh, look, they accidentally opened the book. I guess the plot's back on. We never have a moment like that in this, thankfully. So I appreciate the tighter writing in that regard.
Yeah, that's what it is. Tighter writing. Doug, what do you think?
Yeah, I think this is going to be very hit or miss with people. I certainly like the movie as a whole better than the first movie. Um, I know, like, I was actually the other day talking with somebody, and they asked, my opinion on Hocus Pocus 2. I told them what I said, and when they said, yeah, they actually didn't like it as much as the first movie, citing, they had the issue with not liking the kids as much. So yeah, I think it's gonna be, some people are really gonna like it. Others are just being like, no, the first one was so much better. So it's it's fine. I thought, yeah, a bit of an improvement myself. I didn't really like it that much, but if I had to sit down and watch it again, I guess I could tolerate it.
Here's the thing. My acquaintance Erod brought this up to me, and I said to him, I may not always agree with you on your opinion, but I do at least take it into consideration, and I think that's good to take a look at other people's like thoughts on a film, because I'm not the be all end all. I like stupid stuff sometimes, and I dislike things that other people like. So I would like to be open minded on this. So when I went into this, I'm just like, all right, it's possible he's right. I might like this more, I might like this less, but let's see why. And I feel you hit the nail on the head.
Yep.
I think Hocus Pocus 1 is more this cult classic where you can definitely feel like the soul of a movie that probably wouldn't have been made any other time, and just hit the right people in the right way. It has a lot of things that people love about it: the camp, the numbers, the musical. It didn't have to make a lot of sense for people to like it. But I feel like with Hocus Pocus 2, the tighter writing and stuff does help for people who just didn't really care for the original. But at the same time, the main leads, there's not as much to talk about with them. It's all the Sanderson sisters show. So if they're going to make a Hocus Pocus 3, which they hinted at, the end scene has a second black flame candle. So I don't know what's going to happen with that. If they do a third one, my only thing is give more character to the three main characters. And, stop making Gilbert an ass. Like, those are probably the biggest detriments. Maybe make a little bit better musical numbers. But the problem is music changes over time. And I get, certain things that we like will not be liked by other people. So it's like, it's hard to really gauge when it comes to musical numbers. But, if you're going to do something like One Way or Another, like, that worked. But I don't know if we're going to be able to top I Put a Spell on You. So in a way, I get why Erod does not like this as much, because it's like, it's fun to see the Sanderson sisters, he said, but a lot of it is not as full of soul and heart. And in a way, yes,
Yep.
when it comes to the lead and stuff like that. So now I see where he's coming from. Do you agree with that, Kat?
Yeah, I can see it. I mean, let's face it, this at the end of the day, it's the second movie is still a toned down version of the first, because think of all the traumatic shit that happened in the first movie. Within the first scene alone, you see a girl get killed. You see a boy cursed into an immortal cat. Like, that stuff sticks with you. They had, like, actual bodies under their belt. Like, they've been doing this. They've been, like, witches for 40 years. Like, God knows how many children they've killed in that time. And, like, Lord knows how many children they would have killed, had they been successful in coming back. And with this movie, we don't, like, even though they attempted to kill Gilbert, they really don't, even though I felt like they should have. And yeah, so it seems, in that aspect, I could see how this seems a little more softer for the sake of being PG. And, the leads are written a little more bland, just, I guess, to appeal to everyone, even though that kind of deprives them of, like, character, which they desperately need in order to, like, be leads in their own right. So in that sense, yeah, I feel like the corporate interference does kind of take away some of, like, the fun of this. Like, this film wasn't even filmed in Salem. Like, that to me was kind of, a bummer, because it's like the
Yeah,
first.
that's a major bummer.
Yeah, because the first movie, you could tell it was filmed in Salem, and that's what added to the charm and atmosphere of it. And granted, they tried. They, at the very least, filmed it in the Northeast. Believe it or not, they actually filmed in your home state, Zen. They filmed in Lincoln. They filmed in Newport. They filmed in East Providence.
Oh.
Yeah.
How did I not notice this? Because I've been to these places. I didn't recognize. Well, you know what? I actually recognize one of the streets now that I think about it. So yeah, it's weird that they did it in Rhode Island, not Salem. Because I've lived in Rhode Island. I've lived in Massachusetts, and I've been to Salem, and it's like Salem has this very distinct feel. So it's kind of odd that they didn't film in Salem. Come to think of it.
Yeah, like, and the weird thing is, they even went out of their way to get permission from the shops that live exclusively in Salem to borrow their the signs for their shops just to use in the film. It's like, well, if you're gonna go through that trouble, why not just film in Salem? Did they really have that hard a time getting, like, filming rights and stuff? Like, there are even some scenes they filmed in, like, New York and, like, Queens and Astoria. What was it? My title card artist was telling me that the Walgreens that they go into, I think there was, like, two different ones, one in New York and then one in Rhode Island that they filmed in. So yeah, it's just like, I know with creative filming you can make it look like anywhere, but that kind of just takes away the feel and authenticity of it a bit.
Part of it might be because in October, Salem is kind of a tourist trap. Like, I've been there in October, and you can't get any filming done. So if they really wanted to film, like, around October for certain things, or, like, in a full moon, they might have had to work around it. That's my
Yeah,
only
but they
thing that I think.
Yeah, but they didn't have to film in October. They could literally film any other time. I mean, heck, the first movie technically came out in July. Like to the second movie's credit, at least it came out closer to Halloween. It just, I don't know, that just felt weird to me, and like the way they did that. Like not even like old Salem. They didn't use like any of the old like houses or locations or anything. So I guess.
Yeah, the first film, like the opening shot where they sweep up and they show Salem, is just so iconic that like it's kind of a shame that they didn't reuse it. You know?
Mhm. Yeah, so I guess that's what they mean where it just doesn't feel the same because it technically isn't. There's a lot of more technological enhancements and stuff, and in a way it helps it, and in a way it's kind of a detriment, and that takes away the natural magic of it. It's like capturing lightning in a bottle. Like you can't do it
Yeah.
twice, and when you do, it's not quite the same.
Especially 30 years later. So Erod, this is my shout out to you. I know you've been going through a tough time lately with everything going on this year. So I just wanted to do this for you because, like, hey, I think you're a good guy. If you like the Blockbuster Buster, he did his own Hocus Pocus video and a few other things on Vox Machina. So go check that out on his Patreon, please. With that being said, I'm going to do my final thoughts and my ranking. What I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to say how I think it ranks among the remakes that we've seen, because this is part of the Emperor's New Remake. And then we'll go from there. So, my final thoughts is I think this is going to be a polarizing film for some. I feel for me, I grew up adoring Hocus Pocus, and this is just more of the same, but refined, so I love it more. But I can see why other people would not be as into it, because it does eschew a lot of the things that made it a cult classic in the first place. It does a lot of things that some people may not agree with, but I think overall it does a great job. So I think it's better than the original. And in that case, I'm going to say this is the best Emperor's New Remake we've had so far. Previously, the record was Lady and the Tramp, but I kind of like this more than Lady and the Tramp, to be honest. Kat.
I kind of agree as well, because as I mentioned, I feel this was a big improvement on the original. Like, I could see myself watching this multiple times and genuinely enjoying it. And I'm even, in a way, kind of looking forward to a third movie just to see where they go with the new leads and how they would bring the Sandersons back, and if they're going to bring Mother Witch back, or what it is they're going to do exactly with that lingering plot thread at the end. I mean, it has a lot of potential, and as for the movie itself, like I said, in terms of remakes, it is definitely among the better, because like I've seen such shit. We reviewed shit. Like, I know shit when I see it, and this is not shit.
We've reviewed shit. We've reviewed shit. We've seen shit. I've seen Birdemic. I've seen The Room. I've seen The Amazing Bulk. We've seen shit.
Yeah, there are like all the people that whine about how this bastardizes like the old one, and how it's like, it's awful, it's the worst thing ever, it ruins like their nostalgic goggles, whatever. It's like, you don't know what you're talking about. Like, pop in frickin' Maleficent and then come back to me and tell me if it really is the same as that. Like, there's no comparison, absolutely none. Like, I have, and keep in mind, you can give a villain sympathetic motivations and keep them evil. It is possible. I've seen it done. There are examples out there. Heck, watch Harley Quinn. Joker's whole arc is a prime example of that. It can be done. You just have to keep an open mind and remember that just because you feel for someone doesn't mean that they are absolved of all past bad deeds.
Yeah. And to bring another example, if you think this is bad, try watching Roller Gator, then get back to me. That is my bar for the lowest, like the worst movie. I almost left during the MST3K or the riff tracks of it or whatever it was. Like, that's saying something.
Yeah, watch Plan 9 from Outer Space. Watch Dumbo 2019.
Don't watch.
I don't
don't
want
watch.
to do that again.
No.
Don't watch that.
Don't watch.
In fact, never
Doug,
bring it up again.
Doug, what do you think?
I don't know. I just don't really care enough. It's like I said, I can understand why people like it. I'm just not a big fan. I'm feel too indifferent to really rank it, so I'll give it 2 taco shells out of a Wendy's Baconator.
What does that
I
even
mean,
mean?
Yeah,
it is kind of junk
it
food.
means
It
whatever
is
you
a
want
little
it to mean.
With that being said, I think that kind of does it for us tonight. I don't want to go on too long because I just, finished editing a 2.5 hour episode that we did on something else. But yeah, I definitely had a lot of fun with this. Is it going to be for everyone? No. I think fans will get a kick out of it. Some of them might not like it as much, but I really did. And if you approach this as a remake, I think it did a great job. So with that being said, I am ZenithWarriorPrincess, the cutest of ghost buns.
I'm Kat Macberrie.
And I'm Billy Butcherson. I'm Doug Macberrie.
And just remember, guys, a remake doesn't necessarily have to be a remake. It could be a sequel, because this feels like a remake to me, and it's a pretty good remake. And I think if you're going to do a remake, if you're just, updating things and making your characters more sympathetic, I think there's nothing bad about that. I think this is a great job.
Yeah, honestly, I think we forgot to mention how much it's like you don't really need to see the original film to get what's going on. It's like anything they want to reference from the first one, they'll play a clip of.
Yeah, they do a great job, like, referencing or showing, so you can watch this without any knowledge.
Yep.
So with that being said, have a good one, everybody, and watch out for snakes.
Bye-bye.